Hey, welcome back, guys. Styling Radio. We got the wild man, Dennis Anderson, in the house. And right before we went to the break, it was a really good question because I've actually wondered this, and I don't know how many fans have wondered this. Tell us about the first time you crushed a car with Gravedigger.
First time I crushed a car with Gravedigger was the red Primer pickup.
Okay.
And it had Rice and King tractor tires on it. So anybody that's a super fan of Rice and King tires, they were 18.426 R2s. And that they came on old John Deere, 6620 combines back in the day in the 70s. But anyway, I had those tires on it, and they were they were like 60. They were 62 inches tall. And I crushed cars in Pungo at it's called Creed's Dragon Off Road, this little drag strip, and we made a little mud park there. But I crushed cars for the first time there, and I remember the cars. They were too big. I still got pictures of them, and we had some video of it too. But anyway, they were two like old 65 Galaxies, big old iron wall cars, and I didn't hit them from the side. I was just going from
Front to back.
Front to back in the day. We just climbing over, because honestly, if I'd have gone up and hit the side, I'd have probably broke the tie rod end, both freaking knuckles off of it, because we didn't know shit back then. I knew enough to know that those axles that I had weren't tough enough to do that, because I broke a knuckle goofing off, cross threading some freaking mud holes with it. But
oh yeah, I watched Jack Woman. I was there when they tried to drive on the buses, and he broke all four axles right then and there. And they're like, Fred's like, what's going on? And Jack's like, I don't know, we ain't going nowhere. I mean, that's when you test the limitation of your parts, that because no one had done that.
Yeah. Oh, I know it, man. And and just talking about those old guys, and the first time that I crushed cars, and then the next big step that I went to is I was crushing these big, these Econoline, F-250 vans, and I was crushing two of them, and I was in the panel truck. And then the panel truck, when I got the spooky paint job on it, I got and this was just before I put Terra tires on it, I had these other big combine tires, and it was still big giant Rice and Canes, like for more made for mud than flotation. And I crushed a couple old buses in Fayetteville and got on top of it. And I just remember having that brand new paint job and going, holy shit, I hope I don't slip off the top of this thing, because the paint job, when I had it painted, Fred Buman was the guy that created the paint job.
And did you think it was going to be that wild when he painted it?
No, man. He was such a freaking hippie, man. It was like he was a hippie spiritual painter. And I saw him at a car show painting on a Harley Davidson gas tank for a guy, and he had this cool skull going on. I was like, oh wow, this shit looks so cool. And then it was like, and so I talked to him. He was he had his big wicked eyebrows. He'd always curl one up like he was some super art guy or something, and he really was.
He was steampunk before steampunk was something.
Yeah, yes. But he was and he was a hard cat, dude. He was a grouchy, grumpy, cocky dude to deal with. He didn't have no charm heart about him at all. But we end up loving each other for doing what we done together, But I told him, I said, I have a truck that I want you to paint. He goes, I guess there's some big jacked up son of a bitch. You got to get on a freaking scaffold to paint it. And I was like, yeah, it is. And when he saw the truck, when he saw the truck, he was like, holy shit. He didn't know it was that big. Well, anyway, I told him, I said, I got this cool name, but I just got this crappy paint job. And meaning the crappy paint job was just blue and gray. So it was like, what does the Gravedigger mean? It didn't tell a story. If you walked up to it and looked at it, you just say, oh, it's kind of a cool name if you saw it in a mud hole. But if it wasn't in the mud hole, what the hell, why is it called the Gravedigger? You didn't know. And I wanted a paint job to tell the story without me having to tell the story. And that's what Fred did, man. He created this wicked damn paint job. And I had to finance the paint job. I had to give him a deposit. The first paint job on it was $1,200.
And that's a lot of money back then.
Damn right, buddy. That was the most money I had spent on a truck at that point.
The paint job cost more than a truck.
At one time. But anyway, he painted the thing, and when he started on, I went over and I was like, "Oh God, man, this thing looks like shit." You know, I'm like, I can't believe that I'm getting this done. And I remember coming back to the house and going, "Oh my God, I think I might have made a mistake, and I'm going to owe this guy his money for this ugly, botched up freaking mess that he, it took him like 14 hours of taping and all this, and he painted it, and it was like, it looked cool when I came back. But he told me, so, basically just, get your ass out of here, and when I get done, you come back, and then you can judge me. And I wasn't being mean about it. I wasn't understanding it. And when he got said and done with it, and he said, well, I'm going to put some flames on it. Well, back then, I didn't like flames. I'm like, I don't want those tacky damn flames all over front of my shit. And so he was like, no, I'm going to put you some spooky flames on it. And he done those green flames. And I just basically let him do it, because it was so far in the mission. It wasn't like I could say, sand it back off and let's start again, because there was zero money.
Yeah.
So, let's make the freaking mess of it. I'll drag it through the woods and tear the thing up first. But anyway, he freaking finished it, man. And I didn't even realize what clear coat did to a paint job. And I was just a kid back then. And when he clear coated that thing and all the taping that he did with the, the graveyard and the old wrought iron fence and the horse and carriage and haunted house and all that, man, it just came to life. I couldn't believe it. It was like a kid going to Disney for the first time.
So you freaked out when you walked in there and seen it?
Yeah, I was like amazed. I was like, holy shit, this thing looks so good. I love this thing, and then it was, one thing led to another, and that's when the red headlights, I had it in my shop after it was painted, and we were in there working on it, me and two of my buddies, and I had an old wood stove in the shop, and that thing always, the pipe leaked on it. Smoke kept the shop always had a cloud of smoke in it, And so, I was working on my hauling rig, which was a bus, and I pulled the red lights out of an old bus. And back in the 70s, the blinking lights up on top, those things are seal beam, and they're actually a stained glass. They're red. They're for real, headlights.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you pull them out, they got the three prongs on them, so they're they're a low and a high beam. And which they didn't use them on the bus, they were just on the flasher system. And I had them laying on the workbench. I had the headlights out of that old truck, and I was going to put new buckets in it, and not new buckets, but just put the headlight buckets back in and all that from where we, painted and took it apart. I said, damn, look at that. That headlight is the same as that headlight. I put that red headlight in there, and I rigged up some wires on the back of them really quick and hooked it up to a 12-volt battery sitting in the shop when it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And we're in there messing with this thing, and I turned those lights on and turned the lights off in the shop, and it was all clouded up and smoked up. And it was the best, man. It was, it was Dale.
No kidding.
Yeah, and Dale has passed away now, but Dale always stuck with me. He'd fall asleep. We had old bench seats, by the wood stove that we sat on, and he'd lay on one of them, and sometimes he'd spend the night right there in the shop, and I'd come out the next morning, and he was still crashed out by the wood stove, But anyway, old Dale and Keith were there with me, and we saw those red headlights coming through that smoke, and I was like, God, that is so badass, man. I can't believe that. And we just dumb luck stumbled across all kinds of, cool stuff like that, and creating Gravedigger. Just very lucky, man.
So that's a really cool story, because I know Fell did something years ago where you come out and it was all smoky and all that. They did some fog machines. Now that all makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is cool. I've been with the monster truck industry and the auto industry a long time. I never knew that story. Did you know that story, Shaylin?
No. I knew where they had came from, but I didn't know the in-depth part of the story like that.
Yeah, because Shaylin is been in, with the monster truck stuff all the way back into TNT days, and
yeah,
yeah, like literally that's all me and my kids watch is TNT in the days.
That is awesome. That was the good old days too, man.
Those were the good days.
Yeah. We were paving the road for the business that we have today back then, and was honored to be, have somebody around us, in this conversation that knows that, has lived in that era of monster trucks, and I wasn't the only guy out there paving the road.
Yeah.
There was a good handful of us.
Let's do a little thing here. It's kind of interesting, and like that was some kind words you said to Shaylin there. But Derek, that drives our drift car,
Yeah.
he lives really close to one of your buddies, from Equalizer down in Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And who is that? Is that
Derek? That's on here now.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm the drifter over here. I'm in the Middle Tennessee area. I'm in Liberty, Tennessee. I'm probably I'm an hour east of Nashville and probably 2 hours from the Knoxville area.
Yeah, he's down there, Lebanon, by Lebanon, where David Morris and all them from.
Yeah. Is that who you're friends with, David?
No,
he lives down there by him.
Yeah, I just live.
Okay. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, the Equalizer days, man, that was something else too, man. When they come out with that thing.
That thing was fast.
It was, and it stayed. And I called it a scooter. Like that damn thing would scoot, man, and it'd run across the ground. And they had those, just it was kind of it was a junkyard calamity of a bunch of stuff that they'd put together. But I'm going to tell you right now, man, that recipe of all that shit, it worked.
Oh yeah,
that truck worked back in the day because he was leading the pack. We chased him for a good while.
Yeah, because it's interesting because it's got to be something in that area because when that guy built that truck, he went to a show and 1 year later he built, come out with that. He was a nobody. Derek, that drives our drift car, went to an LS Fest, was into drag racing and stuff, and he watched drift cars and he goes, next year I'm going to be here with one. And we covered that story on here before, but it's pretty interesting where a fan, and Dennis, you've seen this before, a fan in the stands said, I want to do that. That is me.
Yep.
And that's why there were so many monster trucks back in the day. I wouldn't say that it was like, I want to be better than Bigfoot or better than Barefoot or better than USA 1 or better than Gravedigger. I want to go out and do what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I say 87 through 90 was the best generation.
I think so too. It was the simplest, it was the funnest, and it was the most innovative years of monster truck.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of how it was back then. It was like basically we had surplus junkyard items that, when we broke them, then, we didn't really start duplicating until we got into the late 90s. So we figured that we got to start putting the same shit on all these trucks and having the same gearboxes made, the same drive shafts and same length spoiling bars. And that's how all the Feld trucks are now. We've got 56 trucks that are duplicated, and right at my facility, we still build every one of Monster Jam motors. We have 109 540 cubic inch blower motors in the engine program. They have we have an hour meter on them. Every 25 hours, we bring those motors in. We put pistons, rods, valves, springs, valves, stainless steel valves in them. We touch up all the machine work and reseal them and put them back together and put them out there for another round, and we'll usually run them about 3 or 4, rounds like that. And 25 hours is a lot of hours for a monster truck because of, think of, and you really just run the hell out of it. We run a pass and it's, 20 some seconds or 16 seconds or whatever, and then we have a 2-minute freestyle with it, and so there's some wear and tear time out of it. But, my point is, us duplicating and buying stuff as fleet, when we order World Product blocks, we'll order. Right now we have 50 blocks ordered right now, just because it takes so long to get them. And we get Callie's cranks. We've got 30 cranks on order or back order right now. We have 40 sets of heads for Brodax, and we just keep rotating and doing and duplicating. So you can get on your cell phone today, and you can have a freaking monster truck kit, the whole cage sent from Tim Carroll's out of California, shipped to your garage, and you can weld it all together. It's already pre-bent, ready to go. Or you can take your freaking credit card and buy a damn monster truck now.
Yeah, I mean, it's that easy. It's not like
everything. Yeah, back in the day, man, we were out there dragging crap out of the junkyard and creating stuff, and figuring out all the gear ratios and all the cool stuff. And we figured all that out before we got to sophisticated enough to where we had transfer cases with quick changes in them and stuff like that. So yeah, man, I gotta agree. In the 80s, once we got from the mid 80s to the late 90s, that innovation time right there was important to what we are today.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I've got an
So
Go ahead, Shaylin.
the first time that you ever really skied that truck out, what went through your mind?
I hope like hell that it'll keep going when it hits the ground. That's all. I wasn't even worried about getting hurt. I hurt myself so many times with junk shit, just a lap belt. That one truck that I had that I jumped the highest in, I had junkyard seats out of a 1967 Mustang with a damn lap belt. No neck brace, some freaking yard sale stupid helmet, open face.
Well, I remember going to events with Fred, and what's interesting is there's a very cool picture, and it's very iconic, of Little Barefoot pulling a sled, and you can kind of see Fred's head ducked down. I'm in the passenger seat.
Right.
And I was a little kid. And when they made that into a poster, Fred didn't really like it, but there wasn't Photoshop back then, because his head was kind of ducked down. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah.
He's wearing tennis shoes. I mean, the safety, I've been in that truck, and we've been on Fred's property, and I wouldn't say massively jumping cars, right? Just hitting it, gassing it, hitting the rear bumper and coming down. And, you bounce around, you're a little kid. You look at that compared to now, oh, it's a night and day difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this is the question I wanted to ask, because I know all these guys want to ask you questions. And I might be stealing this question from Shaylin, but I'm going to ask it first.
I know what one you're going to ask.
Before you went to Texas, or you got the phone call to go to Texas, right?
Yeah.
And that was the first event that you were on TV. Were you already doing car crushes or small monster truck events before you got that chance to do that?
Yes, I was.
Because I think a lot of fans don't know that. They think you just showed up out of the blue in Texas.
No. I had already been doing shows. Even with the spooky paint job on it, I'd done like 11 shows with the bigger Rice and Canes on. It was a little tour called Monster on Wheels. And we went and we hit little speedways and fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean Moore was the promoter. We actually went to Puerto Rico, put it on a ship and took it to Puerto Rico. We were at San Juan and Mayagüez, and that was in 1980. I think it was 1985 or 86, something like that.
Wow, that was before the televised event in Texas.
Yes, yep.
Wow,
it was.
I never knew that. Do you know that, Shaylin?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the first time I came to Texas, and I was at Houston, Texas Astrodome, I was in a bus. I made this hauling rig out of a shorty bus, and I put an old road tractor front end. My dad had car haulers, and it was an old GMC with a 671 Detroit diesel engine. I spliced this bus in this ugly ass cab and chassis truck that he had that I cut in half and put all this stuff together. And I made me this cool gypsy wagon motorhome because Julie, well, you know, as I was building it, Julie was pregnant with Adam, my oldest son. And Adam is like, by the time I get it done and we go to the Houston, Texas Astrodome for the first time, I would remember being afraid of the rig, like, holy shit, man, that's a long ways. It's like going across the whole world to me. So I left like, 4 days earlier because it was going to take me, I knew, hard driving was going to take 2 days. You couldn't just Google shit back then. I'd look at a map and I looked at the scale of the map and I'd take a match pad and put a mark on it and go, okay, that's 100 miles, another 100, another 100, another 100. And I would figure out how many miles it was, 1,700 miles or whatever I had to go, and I was like, oh shit. So I left extra early just in case I had problems. And I wasn't even afraid of problems back then. I panic now. If I think something's going to go wrong with the rig, I'm like, oh shit, I can't believe it. Back then I had tools, I had the welder, I had everything, and I didn't care. I would just break down and fix it right beside the road, I would get MacGyver something together. Anyhow, we had zero problems going out there. So we get there like 2 days earlier than I had really planned, which was great. And then someone took a picture, and I ended up with the picture some kind of way. But it was Adam, and he couldn't even walk yet. But he had climbed up, stood up, and he could stand up in the crib and jump up and down. And I incorporated this crib in the truck, in that camper, because it had a kitchen in it, beds, bunks, all this, and a tool room in the back. And it was like a shaggin' wagon. I had carpet all the way across the roof of it, in the ceiling, all the way through the floor, because they were remodeling a hotel down here, and they were taking all this carpet out.
And Dennis I'll take the carpet.
Yeah, because I got it out of a meeting room, and the meeting room had hardly never been used. I was like, damn, that looks brand new. I'm going to get that, But anyway, we start gluing and sticking and screwing stuff to it and get this thing, and I was so proud of this thing, and it was so freaking hideous if you saw it today. But
anyway, it was comfortable back then.
Yeah, and it was just on Facebook, like last year, somebody put it on Facebook, and somebody asked me a question, what the hell is that? Or who the hell is that? I said, that's Adam. And he said, where's he at? I said, he's in his bedroom. He said, in his bedroom, and it's a bus with all the windows, and the windows down, and that little dude's hanging on to the window, standing up in his crib, in the back of that bus, looking out the window. And it was just so cool that, then we go, 2 decades later, and my son is, racing driving a monster truck right there in the same spot that I drug him.
Oh, he's a hell of a driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is super cool, because, you got to work with what you got. And that's... It's funny that you talk about, like, the MapQuest and all that, because these kids nowadays, they can't read a map. They don't know the matchstick trick or anything. I knew that trick, but...
Yeah.
But when you went to Texas for the first time, did you... Okay, first off, did you know that was going to be televised?
No, I did not.
Yeah, because I thought before that me and you had talked about it, and you didn't know that it was going to be televised.
No, I did not, because, you got to think about it, man. We had, like, zero communication. The only thing we had back then was a CB radio and a freaking... and a phone in the house, you know what I mean? And it's like... we didn't communicate nothing like people do now.
Yeah, because it was basically through a promoter that show up and we'll pay you this much.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And when I left, I just wanted to make sure that I had done enough hustles, around the farm. And I was a junker too, scrapper, you know what I mean? It's like I would scrap shit, get old Army trucks, and people would buy, axles from me and stuff like that. And so I'd make a hustle. So when I went on that journey right there, I remember when I pulled out here, I had $1,000 in my pocket, and I was like, shit, man, $1,000 would get me around the world back then. But, and it was good. And I was trying to think, what I got paid to go out there, but I think I made, I don't know. I didn't never make money in the beginning. I always just, got by. But I think I may have gotten paid one of the biggest checks that I've ever gotten when I went back then, and it was it was probably like $1,200 or something like that.
Yeah, because you
know?
sold out of shirts at that event real quick.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, and that in those 8x10 glossy, the glossy photos.
Yeah.
I used to sell them, and I remember getting them from the crew color graphs, and you had to order 2,000 of them, and
Yeah.
you could get them. They were 20 cents a piece.
Yep, and you sold them for $1 a piece.
Yes, yeah.
Yep, I remember doing all that with Fred over at Barefoot.
Yeah, and that was my fuel money, and I would because the first time I ever had them, I was in I've been waiting for them forever, mailing stuff back then. You wasn't sure if you were gonna get it or not, ordering it over the phone.
Yeah.
Sending it. Send a check.
Yeah, got to send a check in, and
yeah. Then get a phone call back. It just took forever, but anyway, I remember the first show I was in Ohio. I think I was in Lima, Ohio Fairgrounds. And I got those pictures. I was like, hell yes, finally, man, I can make me some...
Make me money.
Yeah. And so we're on the front of Grumhall, the 51 Ford, panel. And Adam was really little and cute as a button, man. I had him sitting on the hood after the show, and I had kicked ass, man. I'd done so good there. And I slid up to the fence, and Julie came out, and Adam was really happy, and she hands him up to me, and he's like, I don't know, he's probably like 2 years old or something, 2 or 3, but he could talk a little bit. And I was letting him be like a part of the thing, and I was like, get the pictures and, and tell them, it's, $2 for a photo. So I was selling them for $2 then. We were just trying something, And anyway, he was just, the people came flocking over there, and he was sitting on the fender of that truck. And I had a KC light on, so it kind of hold him there. And he was just handing those pictures out. And he's like, he probably handed out 20. It seemed like 100 to me back then. But he gave them to the people for free. And I was like, oh, shit, we don't want to give them away. And I didn't want to tell the people, oh, you owe me a couple of dollars, or you owe me $1, or whatever it was, But
yeah.
I remember that. And I was like, don't give them away, babe. We have to sell them,
Yeah, this is what feeds us and gets us back. But, hey, we got to go to commercial break real quick, and we'll be right back here right after these commercial breaks. Styling Radio.